Keanu Reeves, the man the world admired for his kindness and humility, was out running a simple errand. After a long day on set, he decided to stop by a small grocery store, the kind of place he preferred, quiet, local, and filled with people just living their everyday lives. He liked blending in, walking among people without the weight of fame pressing down on him. Dressed in jeans and a worn hoodie, he grabbed a small basket and wandered through the aisles, picking up some bread, eggs, and a few other essentials. As he reached for a carton of milk, something caught his eye. A man acting strangely near the canned goods. The man looked disheveled, his clothes worn and his face tired. He kept glancing around, shifting his weight nervously from foot to foot. Then, in a quick, shaky motion, he grabbed a can of soup and slipped it inside his jacket. Keanu stayed still, pretending to check the expiration date on his milk while observing the man closely. The thief's hands trembled slightly as he stuffed a loaf of bread into his coat, then a small carton of milk. His movements were rushed and unpracticed, a clear sign of desperation rather than skill. Keanu didn't move right away. He wasn't the type to jump to conclusions. Instead, he followed the man with his eyes, watching as he shuffled toward the exit, his shoulders hunched as if trying to make himself invisible. The store was relatively empty, only a few customers browsing, the cashier busy ringing up another shopper. The man took a deep breath, preparing to slip out unnoticed. But before he could take another step, Keanu placed his basket down and walked toward him. Keanu reached out and gently rested a hand on the man's shoulder. The man flinched, his body tensing, as if expecting to be shoved or yelled at. Slowly, he turned around, his eyes wide with fear. "Are you okay?" Keanu asked in a calm, steady voice. The man swallowed hard. I didn't mean to. I just needed something to eat." His voice was hoarse, almost a whisper, like someone who hadn't spoken to another person in a long time. His gaze dropped to the floor, avoiding Keanu's eyes. Before Keanu could say anything, the store owner, a middle-aged man with a stern face, noticed what was happening. He stormed over, his expression filled with anger. "Hey, you! Empty your pockets right now!" he barked. "I knew you were up to something the second you walked in." He reached for his phone, his fingers already dialing. "I'm calling the cops." The customers in the store started whispering. Some shook their heads in disappointment, while others looked indifferent. The thief's hands trembled as he slowly reached inside his coat and pulled out the stolen items: bread, a can of beans, and a small carton of milk. Nothing extravagant, just enough to survive another day. He looked utterly defeated, his eyes shining with shame. Keanu exhaled slowly, then did something no one expected. Instead of stepping back and letting the store owner handle the situation, Keanu reached into his pocket, pulled out his wallet, and calmly asked, "How much does he owe you?" The store owner frowned. "What?" Keanu repeated himself, his voice unwavering. "How much do these cost?" "I'll pay for them." The entire store fell silent. Even the cashier, who had been scanning items at the counter, paused to watch. The store owner hesitated before responding. "It's about $15, he muttered. Without a word, Keanu pulled out a $20 bill and handed it to the cashier. "Keep the change," he said simply. The man who had tried to steal the food stared at Keanu, his mouth slightly open in disbelief. Why would you do that?" he whispered. His voice cracked, and he gripped the food tightly as if afraid it would be taken away again. Keanu's answer was simple. "Because I know what it's like to be hungry." The store owner still looked unimpressed. "That's not the point. He stole. Actions have consequences." Keanu turned to him, his eyes steady. "Maybe the consequence today is kindness." The store owner huffed but didn't argue further. The man, still shaking, kept staring at Keanu, unable to find the right words. But Keanu wasn't done yet. Keanu reached into his wallet again and pulled out a crisp $100 bill. He handed it to the man. "This should help you get back on your feet for now." The man's fingers barely touched the money before he pulled his hand away. "I don't deserve this," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Keanu smiled gently. "Everyone deserves kindness. Just promise me one thing. When you're in a better place, help someone else." The store owner sighed heavily but looked at the man differently now. "Look, I might have been too harsh," he admitted. "If you really need help, I can't hire you, but I can set up a donation jar at the counter for people who might be struggling. That way, no one has to steal." The customers, who had been silently watching, began nodding. One by one, they stepped forward, pulling out alluring